please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. Well, a couple of earnings which are left today, and one of them has to be ONGC from the Nifty space. It's marginally under pressure, but it's expected to be a good quarter on the back of better crude realizations. Sonal joins in to tell us more in terms of what we can expect. Sonal, go ahead.
Thanks a lot for that, Ekta. And as you rightly said, we're expecting a good quarter because of the higher crude realizations. However, gas realizations, they are expected to be flat sequentially. But in terms of the headline numbers, revenue is expected to grow by around 5% at 24,000 crore rupees. EBITDA is expected to go up by 5%. Very marginal increase in the operating profit margins by 10 basis points. But profits, they are expected to see some good growth of around 29% on a sequential basis. The main number to watch out for will be the crude oil realizations that we're expecting to be at a multi-quarter high because of the higher oil prices at $67.15 per barrel, and that indicates a growth of 22% on a YOY basis and 11% sequentially. The gas realizations, however, are expected to be flat sequentially, but they also will see a growth of around 15% on a YOY basis. But EBITDA is the margins are expected to be flat. That is because the operational sales volumes are expected to decline on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Crude sales, they are expected to go down by around 3% on a quarter-on-quarter basis, and the gas sales, they are expected to go down by around 4% sequentially. So that is what will lead to flattish operating profit margins. Profit growth will be mainly driven by the dividends that the company will receive from its subsidiaries, and of course the crude realizations at multi-quarter high is what we are working with today.
All right, Sonal, thank you very much for that. Sonal will be back when we have the actual results as they're reported. I mean, 55 points. So from being down 65, 10 or 15 minutes back, we've recovered a little bit. 10,578 is where we stand at this point in time. Mid caps actually have recovered a bit more. They were doing better than large caps, but down 0.25%. The index, that is. And the bank Nifty is down 0.4 as well. Ashwini Gujral is with us on the show with his thoughts on the market to begin with, and then later we'll get to the trades. Ashwini, I mean, 10, 5, 7, 8 or so on the Nifty. Your sense of where we are heading from here?
See, it's clear that there is no follow-through on the downside. And one reason for that is that we fell fairly sharply yesterday afternoon. So for the moment, with a stop, say below today's low, I think particularly financials can be bought, because that's where a lot of hammering took place, and now banks etc. are moving up sharply. My sense of, even if Europe shows you a bit of stability, chances are we are likely to see fairly strong short covering. So Bank Nifty is the buy right now. As far as individual stocks are concerned, again, NBFCs are doing very well, post doing poorly yesterday. So Bajaj Finance is a buy with a stop of 2075, target of 2140. Piramal is a sell with a stop of 2380, target of 2260. And Petronet LNG is a buy with a stop of 212, target of 228.
Ashwini, you did mention some amount of resilience probably in financials. What would you recommend on ICICI Bank? It's the third top loser on the Nifty week to date.
See, again, ICICI Bank, etc., the corporate lenders, they tend to come under pressure more than the private banks. But I think today's leader on the Bank Nifty are Yes Bank, HDFC Bank and Kotak. I think as the day goes by and if Qs start to turn positive, I think ICICI Bank will also see recovery, because it was down already 2% yesterday. So I think chances are the entire space would tend to recover.
Okay, well, we have a couple of Twitter queries now, Ashwini. We have Rajan, who has 200 shares of Delta Corp at 275, wants to know whether to hold or sell that particular stock. What would you recommend? Been quite an underperformer year to date.
See, the problem is that he's bought it at a very high price. So he should average down, bring the price to 220, 230. Then maybe, at some point, Delta Corp is likely to get back to fresh highs. But I think he should use this decline to get into Delta Corp. And finally, he can keep a 200 rupee type of stop for the entire position. See, mid caps have come off strongly. So the intelligent investors need to use the opportunity to, top up their positions in good stocks. So I think Delta Corp kind of fits that bill.
Okay, Ashwini, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining in with those calls, with that advice as far as the market is concerned. Well, just want to quickly point out a couple of names before we go any further. So this is essentially the top gainers from a turnover point of view. The heavily traded stuff basically. So I mean, look at Kiri Industries, 7.33% higher. There is CDSL, which is a BSE subsidiary, which is up about 7.33%. It'll come up. Torrent Power is holding with about a 4.33% gain. PC Jewelers lost quite a bit yesterday. It's coming back about 3%, not very much. And then there's Graphite India and Bombay Dyeing, which are up about 2.5% each. On the downside, I mean, you got a lot of stuff. So Vakranji is down 5. BEL is down about 4%. I think the BEL management would be addressing the press, and we may cut to it in a bit. Shriram Transport Finance is down 3. Glenmark is down 3. And so it goes. We're going to take another quick break here. We'll come back. Fortis is the other name which is in news. We understand that the Singh brothers and Harpal Singh have resigned from SRL board. Also, the company reports numbers today. More on that when we return in just a bit. Okay, welcome back. I mean, 54 points lower, so it's basically swinging and going up and down 10 points, 65, 55, back down 65, and now down 50, 55 once again. The other name, I mean, this is not a name anymore, but really a story which has been panning out now for months, is essentially Fortis. We learned from sources that the Singh brothers and Harpal Singh have resigned from SRL Diagnostics Board. By the way, the company also reports numbers today. Typically, for any other company, we would be discussing a preview of numbers, but not for this one. So what's new in this one?
Well, the numbers would be important from an auditor standpoint, and ironically, it is Deloitte also, which is the auditor at Fortis. But nonetheless, the exclusive news that we've picked up is that the Singh brothers as well as Harpal Singh have resigned from the SRL Diagnostics Board. Now, why is this important, Prashant? Is because SRL Diagnostics is a 57% subsidiary of Fortis, and it is a material subsidiary, more importantly, in the case that it has been actively involved in all of the transactions and the bidding process which has been undertaken. So it was quite ironic because the Singh brothers, stepped down from the Fortis board, but they continued to head the SRL board. So now we understand that, because of the kind of cleaning up which has really taken in place in the Fortis board, the Singh brothers have now tendered their resignation. I understand that it happened on Sunday or Monday itself, and Harpal Singh also tendered his resignation as soon as yesterday. So that means that all of the old board members have now stepped down from the SRL Diagnostics Board. Don't know what's going to happen in terms of a reconstitution or strengthening the board from this current perspective, but this would be an important development from a governance point of view. Separately, there is obviously a rebidding process which is going to be opened at Fortis, and we know the timelines which go on up till the 14th of June. So it's going to be an expedited kind of rebidding, which would include 10 days of due diligence. And additionally, there are the Q4 numbers which are coming out today, and obviously the audit report or the audited statement would be the most important after everything that's happened, as well as whether we can expect anything from the Luthra and Luthra report.
Okay, that's pretty comprehensive. I saw a flash on IOC at the bottom of the screen. Maybe it'll come up once again. So there was some confusion about how much diesel and petrol prices have been cut by. And I think initially in the morning it was close to some 50 paise or something, and now it's been clarified that it was a technical glitch, and the price cut which has happened is actually far lower. I think it's 1 paise. 1 paise, that is true. I mean, but, to be sure, I do remember prices being lowered by 3, 4, 5 paise, but 1 paise, I mean, that's got to be a new one. We'll, of course, try and understand from maybe the management of what this is all about. But Ekta, just one quick thing. If you just prima facie, if you just go to the IOC website and look at the price build-up, there is no increase from yesterday as far as the margins are concerned.
Yeah.
Which means that this 1 paise price cut is dictated by the formula, which is the 15-day rolling average, and nothing else. And of course, the rupee as well, right? So it is, the instinct is to look at this 1 paise and say that maybe they're not passing on as much as they should. And that they're using discretion not to lower as much as the global price fall is allowing them to. But the fact is, and I showed this day before yesterday, you compare a day, you put out two tables, two columns really. On one column, you look at the 15-day rolling price daily, and you look at the daily price close for Brent or WTI. The fact is, there is a big difference between what the 15-day rolling price as of yesterday and yesterday's close. Yesterday's close would be 65 something, and I would reckon that the 15-day rolling is still 73, 74 dollars. So I mean, it's just math. So it'll take time for it to actually show in terms of that
$5 which has actually reduced in Brent.
So prices will come off. But I think this 1 paise is not going to go down very well.
I wonder what 1 paise can actually buy in today's day and age. But nonetheless, that's a conversation for a different time. We do have other news also to reckon with. SEBI has announced that they're discontinuing what the institutional trading series in the equity segment with effect from the 1st of July. What does this mean, and which are the stocks which are likely to get impacted? Nimesh Shah joins in to give us details on it. Nimesh.
Well, Ekta, so the biggest beneficiary in the near term would be HDFC Bank. Just to give a perspective, ever since we've been in CNBC, we've been tracking this FI window and the kind of premium some of the stocks is to enjoy. And the biggest beneficiary is HDFC Bank. At one point in time, HDFC Bank is to enjoy a premium of good 20%. Now, with the discontinuation of institutional trading series in the equity segment from July 1st, what this means is FIs cannot buy into the FI segment, which means there can't be a deal between FI and FI at a certain premium. FIs will have to sell in the open market. Only locals can buy in a restricted stock, and only once the limit goes down below the prescribed limit set by RBI, then it's only then when then FIs can come and buy again fresh into the restricted stocks. In case of HDFC Bank, the trigger I'm saying it's positive simply because on June 1st, because of the ESOP adjustments, there's going to be a window of 1.5% for the FIs to buy. This means that technically this is the last opportunity. If an FI wants to play HDFC Bank or India story through HDFC Bank, this is the last opportunity that they will get. After July 1st, any FI who wants to participate into India story through HDFC Bank will have to wait till the time other FIs sell, locals buy, and the holding, the limit comes down below 72%, wherein RBI gives permission-based buying. So till then, no FI will be able to participate into HDFC Bank shares, directly in the open market. So that's the key reason why in the near term, because of that window which is going to go up, is going to get open for HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank will be the biggest beneficiary. If you look at I was just looking at some of the other stocks which are there. Essentially, the financial stocks are there which are in the restricted list so far. As things stand, I was just looking at the data. Something like Equitas is still in the FI restricted.
Ujjivan there.
Ujjivan is there. GNFC is there.
Yeah.
So these are the 4-5 stocks which are there still in the FI restricted list. But as what SEBI has announced yesterday evening, they've stopped the trading from July 1st, which means that FIs cannot buy anymore into any restricted stocks till the time the limit goes down below prescribed limit and the window opens up. Till then, FIs will have to stay away from it. So as far as HDFC Bank, as I said, the trigger is on June 1st. There's going to be a window of close to 1.5%, which will get open up for the FIs. And that
can get bid pretty strongly.
Very aggressively will be sought after. Exactly. So which means that there will be a bit of scrambling, not only in the FI window, but in the ADR as well as in the local HDFC Bank stock as well.
Okay, all right, Nimesh, thanks very much for that. So that's some news which we can look forward to when it comes to HDFC Bank. But 1% continues to be under pressure today. It's down 10% after hitting lower circuits for the past 2 trading sessions. We did speak to the management yesterday to provide some clarification with regards to the auditors, but there's really no respite, and obviously the street is very uncomfortable right now. Prashant, what can we expect today, and what are the latest developments?
I mean, actually, there is no latest development. That's essentially what I wanted to say. So the last actual sort of information which came out was when we spoke with the Manpasand management yesterday. By the way, I just want to say that look at the number of stock traded in the Manpasand shares. I mean, 50,000 shares, that is nothing, right? And the stock is down 10%. And actually, it was down 20% yesterday, and volumes were around that 50,000-60,000 share mark. So, I mean, the fact is, it's not as if there is huge institutional selling. Maybe there is a lot of institutional selling waiting to get done, but the point is there are no buyers on the other side, right? So, the amount of stock is pretty limited. So, you know, you look at the, 45-50% price fall over the last 3 days, and the kind of opinion is very stark, right? I mean, one opinion, which I think is what you're seeing reflected in the market, is that, well, there is hanky-panky. You can't trust the financials, the numbers. There was this blog which was written, which is going viral again. I remember the first time it came out, the stocks the next day morning sold off 12-14%, and then it recovered. You know, so, and I think the management came on air, clarified, etc. Now with the auditor resigning, I think that is back in circulation, and people are really questioning why would the auditor like one of the big four, Deloitte, really step away unless there were serious concerns with the numbers. We haven't heard from the auditor. We haven't. There were reports that Deloitte has written to MCA. We reported on that. The other point of view, that is one point of view. The other point of view, and this is also, I've spoken to a few investors, and they are telling me that maybe this is just a case of, I mean, for the lack of a better way to put it, lack of understanding. I mean, it's basically misunderstanding, or maybe kind of a standoff.
Lack of information.
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, the story goes that, I mean, you know, there was information asked, the information was provided by Manpasand to Deloitte, you know, in a delayed fashion. The cutoff for announcing results was 30th. The date was approaching. Manpasand went ahead and announced that they will announce the results on such and such date without waiting for the auditor to sign off on the books, right? And that kind of set off Deloitte, and they kind of stepped off from the from being statutory auditors for Manpasand. So, but you know, if you believe the second line of thought, like second line of thinking, then it's just that. It's just auditors stepping off because dates did not match. I mean, it's just that. It's not nothing to do with financials. We don't know which one is correct, but they're very two different things, opinions which are out there at this point, and the implications of both those two are very, very different, right? I mean, if you go with the first one, then it is very, very serious.
Well, maybe a clarification from the auditors is something that the market would really want at this point in time. So maybe Deloitte should probably come out with a statement, maybe come out with a clarification with regards to this. Welcome back. Vaibhav Sanghvi of Avendus Capital now joins in to discuss the fundamentals of the market. Vaibhav, hi. Thanks very much for joining in. Wanted to start this conversation by asking you about the mid-caps. Before going into break, we were just discussing what happened with Manpasand. Other stocks are in focus as well. For example, Dilip Bilkon is correcting quite significantly today. We're seeing the likes of Just Dial show a lot of volatility. So overall, what's your sense in terms of how the mid-caps are likely to pan out? And is it a good time to probably book profits?
No, so mid caps have been a pain point in terms of the performance in last 2 to 3 months. One that you had seen some sizable inflows in the past year, and at the same time there are some amount of realignment in the schemes itself, in terms of the constitution and in terms of the universe you can carry into those kind of schemes. So I think this realignment will continue probably for a couple of days more, most probably this month end, and you might see some amount of stability coming in. The only thing which we need to watch here is basically the revenue trajectory as well as the margin performance, which we think are a bit under pressure purely because of the raw material costs.
Okay. Vaibhav, you know, in terms of what's happening with regards to the political uncertainty that we're seeing, say from the likes of Italy and Spain, is that probably going to have a long-lasting effect according to you globally? And what might the repercussions be for us? Because we're down and out today because of the global space.
Of course, see, the political uncertainty is definitely arising in Eurozone, and because of which people are, you know, again re-evaluating the fact that whether there would be an exit of Italy from the European Union, which on a personal basis, or our view is basically we don't think that's going to happen. But in any case, the worries around it in terms of whether the growth is not going to continue, and because of which you are seeing euro getting a little bit depreciated against the USD as well, and from some amount of flight to safety. When we saw that US 10-year also appreciating dramatically in the last couple of days. So on an overall basis, we are looking at some amount of risk-off happening on the global scene, led by US getting stronger, dollars getting stronger, and as well flight to safety in terms of the 10 years. This may continue over for some period of time, but we'll have to closely watch how it pans forward in terms of their growth forecast as well.
Mm-hmm. What have you been doing, Vaibhav, good morning, in the market with your positions, investing?
Good morning. Yeah, so we've been fairly light on the portfolio, but as we continue to maintain, our preferred sectors, which are consumers, tech, and we have been consistent in, holding that on the long side. What we are increasingly finding some amount of comfort is basically those NBFCs who are strong in terms of the liability franchise management is something we are looking positively towards it. And on terms of the shorts, what we have seen in this quarter in terms of the trend is basically the raw material cost again at the cost of reputation is affecting the margins at which these companies are operating. So while the whole street is at about 20 to 25% of earnings growth for the next year, we are at about 15%. The street may be surprised a bit on the downside. So we are pretty light in terms of our portfolio position given the global and the local uncertainties.
Okay, all right, Vaibhav, we're going to leave it on that note. Run out of time for this session. Thanks very much for joining in and talking to us. We need to take a break, but more on the markets once we're back. Stay tuned.